Hi, I'm John Underhill. Welcome to Underhill Creations. In this short video, part of the Bandit series, I'm going to show you how I make custom finials for the Bandit rollerball, exclusively at exoticblanks.com. Let's get started. Here's why I like the Bandit rollerball set. Obviously because it's stainless steel, I don't have to worry about marring up any of the finish when I'm taking this thing apart. Also, the color works really great with all the different colors of blanks out there and material. So I've chosen this one because we're going to remove this tip here of this finial, and it's real simple to do. I'm going to take a block of wood and I'm going to take the upper drill bit for the upper tube of the rollerball, which is the 12.5, and I'm going to drill a small hole in it. Now because this is tapered on the edges, it's going to sit upright in there and leave a little bit of space underneath. Then I'm just going to take a simple punch and I'm going to place it over the center of the rivet inside, and I'm going to strike the top with a hammer, and it's just going to knock that out. So now I have removed the insert off the finial, allowing me room to make something new to put in there. Alright, so here's what I've done so far. I've taken one of my custom cast color blanks and I've drilled out the upper and lower tubes, and I've already turned them down to size, so they're ready to go. With the leftover blank, I took some 5-minute epoxy. Doesn't matter what brand you use. I usually use Loctite, but this was the brand that they had in stock at the time. And I just take a normal notepad like this and a stir stick, and I just mix it up, stir it real quick, and I glue these down like I would putting tubes inside the blank. Now what I do is I select just a straight grain scrap piece of maple, and I like the maple because it's hard enough that it'll hold in my jaws without denting too bad. And I glue with the epoxy the scrap piece on top. I make sure when I push it on there, I try to center as best I can, and I just push it down hard enough till I get excess that squeezes out the top, and I don't wipe anything off. I let it just set overnight then and cure, and this has been set now for a couple of days, so we're good to use this. What it does, it allows me to put this in my chuck with long jaws and hold it while I'm able to turn a finial, and then after that I'll show you how I make the custom center band in the next video. Alright, so here we have it secured in our chuck. Now if I weren't using a square piece of wood, I would only use opposite jaws on the chuck to where there were only two. That way it would still center this piece, but I know this is square because I cut it on the table saw. So next I'm going to bring this up to a rest, make sure that nothing hits, and I'm going to turn this down now close. The finish size is going to be about 7/16, so I know I've got a little bit of ways to go. I'm going to round out. I'm not going to do the whole blank. I'm only going to do maybe the front half, and that way I still have enough left for our next project, which will be the center band. I'm up to about 1600 RPMs. You turn at your comfortable speed. Alright, now that we've got this close, I'm going to face it. I'm going to add a slight taper to it, kind of like the one that it came with. Now that we've got that faced, we're going to do our lightly sanding on it. We have to finish and sand this while it's still on here. Once we part that off, we can't really do much to it, so we have to make sure it's down to finish size. Everything is slightly sanded, polished, and to the shine that we want, because it's going to be real hard to do anything to it once we part it off. So for starters, what we're going to do is I'm going to lightly sand this down with some 600 grit. It's pretty smooth now with my finished cut, so all I want to do is just just lightly take any scratches out that I can. We're going to do that at a slower speed, right around 1200. And this also allows me to take that little nipple off the center of that. Once we turn that down, it's going to leave a small little nib right in the center. We want to knock that down flat. I'm not using heavy pressure. And I can knock down this edge slightly. Doesn't really matter how smooth the side is because I'm going to part that off anyhow. But I'm going to want to finish part of it, and just in case it doesn't sit deep enough and it's visible. So we're going to smooth all this out. And then I'm going to switch to the extra fine steel wool. And I'm going to turn the lathe up a little higher for that. And that's just going to remove any of them scratches from the sandpaper, any of the sanding debris, and just kind of smooth everything over. I'm not pushing real hard. I don't want to add more scratches to it. I just want to smooth it all out. Alright, now we're going to check. So we're still a little proud, so now I can come back and knock this diameter down slightly, and I know that my front is where I want it to be, but I'm maybe a 32nd bigger than what I want, so we'll sand on that a little more. You could use your skew or whatever tool you're comfortable with to do this as well. I think I'm so close that I can sand it without going a little too far, because you can't add it if you go too far. You could build it up with CA if you needed to, but we'll see what this does. Alright, there we are. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this with a little bit of glue boost. I'll put 3 coats of the ultra thin. That'll be enough to fill the scratches. And then I'll switch to the orange. One thing to remember, you don't want to add too much because now you're adding thickness to your diameter and it may not fit in that cutout. Yeah, we're still good. Now I'm going to micro mesh and polish it. Now that we've got that micro meshed, I'm going to take some Yorkshire grit, the ultra fine, and I'm going to polish that up. Yeah. There we go. Now we're just going to part that off, and what we want to make sure that we part it off, we have to look at what that's going to fit in. So we have to judge our depth and part that off so that we know it sits in this groove here. We get the right thickness. Now here's another thing I like. Rather than just part it all the way off, I'll usually leave a bit of a stem on it, and that way that stem will sit in the center of that finial where the original post went through, and it'll kind of help just fill in the gap, and that way I don't have a bunch of epoxy dripping down inside. Alright, so here we have it. We've got our original component set for the cap. We've got the stock finial that we pushed out, and we've got now our custom finial that we turned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this pen down, I'm going to assemble the entire thing, and then I will epoxy this in with 5-minute epoxy. But I want to do that after the pen is assembled, because when I press this in, I don't want this on top to be damaged. So this is the last piece I'm going to assemble on this pen. But it'll go in on top, and it'll rest nicely on there and give you that custom finial that separates you from everybody else. And the nice thing is, we still have plenty of blank left to make the center band, and that'll be the next video.